Once again, it's another edition of What's the Haps Lansing in Terrell Bang. It's Metro Melik, People's Champ. I'm here for you, representing some old school. Remember this? Remember this? I had these done, but I can't find the guy. So if you know the guy that used to own Betty's Buttons, I want that. I want to find that guy. I thought I had his number. I call it every now and then just to see if anybody will answer. They don't. All right. So anyway, it's some fun stuff that's happening in Lansing. I'm excited, and we're going to get right to it. Patricia Moreno is here to talk about a whole lot of stuff that I am completely ignorant. So let's get it rolling.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you being here. We're like new best buddies.
Yeah, you have no idea what we're about to get into this year.
So I'm excited about that. Happenstance, I call it butterfly moment. Saw you at the chiropractor office, and I was like, what? Who is? Okay. And then we had a couple cool conversations. I'm excited about that. So you're from Lansing? You born, raised here? Like, what's up?
Yeah, born and raised here. My father's from Mexico. Migrated here. He really, what happened was he came here to make money to go back home. He wanted to be a lawyer. My grandfather only had money to send him to college long enough to be a teacher. And he said, I'll roll my dice and go up north. He had a betrothed at back in the ranch town, the farm town that he was from. But then when he met my mom and he got deported, he crossed illegally 3 times. But back then, it was only a misdemeanor. You know, it wasn't really, and also it was still.
Wait, so he went to school to be a teacher?
He wanted to go to college to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather offered him enough education, enough money to make him a teacher. And my father was like, yeah, no, I don't want that. So I'll roll the dice and see what I can try my luck in the United States and make some money to come back and maybe start my own business or something, right?
Uh-huh.
But then when he came here, he came all the way up to Michigan and he met my mom. Fell in love.
See, that's what happens every time.
Not every time, but sometimes.
Okay, not every time.
Yeah, no. I think that a lot of times people would rather be able to go back home and make their money. I have lots of cousins who have also. I had a cousin who passed away crossing the border. There was that year, I want to say in 2000. Oh God, it was like 300 degrees. They were telling people not to cross. And thankfully,
they weren't even like
300 degrees.
Don't cross because it's illegal, but don't cross because you'll die just in the nature. Because Mother Nature's being a jerk right now. Mm-hmm. Don't even press your luck.
And this was around the time that they were playing with laws in Arizona about making it a felony if you gave people, migrants or undocumented people, water, food, or shelter, like a felony, to be humane. They were trying to cross these laws, right? And in fact, just recently, I would say within the last 2 years, they charged this gentleman who does that. He's part of an organization in Arizona. They go to these desert areas and leave water.
Yeah, I've seen that. Just be like, hey, we're not on either side per se, but don't die.
Well, I think
trying to live.
I think that we've gotten caught up in this conversation of versus, black versus white, Republican versus Democrat, when really it's about civil rights and human dignity.
Yeah.
When did we allow our peers, citizens, to be found guilty by judge, jury, and executioner by the police, right off the bat? And we get caught up in this other argument about, it's about criminals not having rights, but how do you know that person's a criminal? Aren't you innocent until proven guilty? So I think that's what's really important. And so that's what kind of comes down to the line with people crossing the border.
So your father he left Mexico.
Came here.
And how did he end up in Lansing?
I think he was just trying to be the furthest away from the border, but also social communication, social networking amongst the Mexican culture is just natural. So people talk, and he found out that there was work up here, so he came up here.
What was he doing for work?
At first, he was just, he had done the in the fields, but he was like, no way, this is a trap. You can't get out of this lifestyle, and the first chance I get out of the farm, I'm gonna get out of here. And so he started getting training. There was a program here that was training people after he did night classes to speak English. He got trained in tool and die, and he became a die setter at Demer Tool and Die for like 30 years.
Was he? I don't mean this in any disrespect.
Go ahead.
Was he documented or undocumented?
No, he was undocumented. He crossed 3 times illegally because he wanted to get back up here to my mom. And then the 3rd time, he proposed to my mom. And it was a tough thing. My mom's family looked at him like, oh, you're just trying to get legal. You're just marrying my daughter, my sister to get legal. So there was a reverse, and my father took it real offensively because he was a man of dignity and honor. And then the fourth time he crossed legally with the lawyers and everything, and my mom, and thank God, for me, they've been around, they're still together, like
Yeah.
he's been a contributing member of society, paying taxes, retirement, 401k. He worked for 30 years plus at Denver till and die, and barely ever missed a day.
Getting married made it legal for him to be here.
Yeah, because you could marry. Yeah, even this time too, in these times, but it's not as easy because a lot of people use that, like citizens here, they would use that as something that they could use to make money from. Like, hey, I'll marry you for this much money, and then you can get legal. And it was a lot easier back then. But also, it was also a way to make a family. If you fell in love with somebody who was an immigrant, then and really, frankly, I mean, the forefathers are all immigrants, right? So come on,
Everybody's an immigrant.
this whole
if you're not.
country was founded by immigrants.
Yeah.
Right?
So, what was your mom doing at the time?
She was born and raised here like me.
Yeah, but what was she doing?
She was in college
she
at
was
LCC. Yeah.
So these lovebirds,
Mover and shaker. Everybody thought that my mom would never get married because she was too political, and she was doing a lot of big things at LCC, creating like conferences and whatnot, just like this powerful leader. And then my dad comes in and marries her.
Love struck, swept her off her feet.
Swept her off her feet, yeah, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's romantic, dude.
Actually, the way she tells it, she said he used to get on my nerves. I couldn't stand him at first. But he'd come around to the dances.
I love that story.
The black and tan back in the day. The black and tan, the Rainbow Ranch.
Tan.
Yep. Black and tan, the Rainbow Ranch. They used to meet up.
I don't know the Rainbow Ranch. Was that a Mexican hangout?
I think so. That's where they used to have Mexican dances. I mean, I wouldn't know. These places
weren't
were
born
already
yet.
extinct by the time I came around. But yeah, they talk about how they used to, I don't know if it was at the Black and Tan or the Rainbow Ranch, they used to dance around the puddle. Like it was a really rickety spot, like
Right. It was
leaky roof and whatnot.
A
But
shack, practically.
Yeah, but my dad would come in and buy drinks for all of my mom's friends at the table. So they were like, "Ooh, he's nice. You should hook up with him." He was slick, right? So after a while, he was persistent, and he won my mom over. I don't know that it was really swept her off her feet, but it progressively.
All right, okay. I guess I'll go out with you.
And my grandfather on my mom's side was what they call a Tejano. Like he used to say, we didn't cross the border crossed us. So my family on his side hails from back in the day when Texas was Mexico. Texas, Florida, Colorado. So the border crossed them.
Because actually Mexico was all the way up.
Mexico is the majority of the United States. If you look at all the south and the west.
Yeah, half.
Louisiana, Florida, Nevada.
All the way up.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. All the way up.
California. I mean, a lot.
Yeah. And then that's why the names are there.
What's even more interesting is, so there's, I'm gonna plug my another colleague. His name is John J Valadez, and he is a director of award-winning documentaries at PBS, but he also teaches here at MSU. And he did this doc called The Head of Joaquin Murrieta. And Joaquin Murrieta supposedly the guy who inspired Zorro. And the story, it's a really great doc. But in that doc, which I think everybody should see, in that doc I learned that Mexicans were not only lynched, like there were more Mexicans lynched ever than blacks, which is not something to brag about, but it's something I didn't know, right? And at a higher velocity. Why? Because that little border move allowed for us to be second-class citizens with so much to give up for the white man who was entitled to it. So if the constitutions in California, the state of California, were written in Spanish and English so Mexicans could understand that you're going to lose your land. If a white man comes up to your homestead and says, I want your land and I want this, you got to leave. Otherwise, he has the right to kill you and your family. That was it. And they would. They did it all the time. And that's how Joaquin Murrieta was inspired. Supposedly his brother was lynched by a white mob for stealing a horse, but he had sold the man the horse. He had sold Joaquin Murrieta's brother the horse, but then the white man reneged on it and said, no, he stole it from me, and so they lynched him. And that's what inspired Zorro, El Zorro.
Oh, wow.
But it's really interesting to know that. And there's a place in Texas called the Lynching Tree, Texas, and they have two trees, one for the blacks and one for the Mexicans, because as the one guy in the documentary says, it ain't fitting to kill them on the same tree. And there's a Lynching Tree Cafe. It's Lynching Tree Town. Yeah, this is real, right? So yeah, just totally.
Man,
that's where my grandfather hails from. I want to
have a response or a question to that, but I can't. To be so callous as to be like, oh, this is the cafe, so we'll see you before and after.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Like, that's just so...
And so my grandfather was a World War II veteran
Yeah.
in this military that also gave him, like, go back to your country. Why'd you cross the border? You know, that kind of thing. And so that was my grandfather's response. You know, we didn't cross the border crossed us. So he was Tejano, tracing our roots back there. But he legalized my grandmother and great-grandmother.
Yeah.
And then they raised my mom in Catholic school. And my mom was working her Social Security number as a migrant worker at 11. So a lot of people think here we're like, oh, we act as Americans. Sometimes we act a little arrogant in the sense like, oh, we don't have child labor laws. You know, like we don't work our children. But if you have fruits or salads, little hands have picked those fruits and salads. Because here, child labor laws, they're in effect except for in farm workers. So there's children who are working in the farms at as young as 8 just to make ends meet for their families. And so when you say, oh, I'm vegan for the animals, it's on the backs of children that you're vegan. And so it's like a lot. You got to it's being aware. It's kind of like what the Dalai Lama said. Be aware of the drama of the world. Know your place in it to contribute to humanity. Like that's the purpose of life, right? And
all right, so your parents meet, you come along. Do you have brothers and sisters?
One sister. She's younger.
She's younger.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went to school in Lansing?
I was born and raised here in Lansing, but my first language was Spanish. So I learned English later, like a few of my other peers. And I thank God my father always made sure that we went to Mexico. So I was able to value the opportunities here and see the difference in politics, even how it affected it, because my family was greatly affected in Mexico after Clinton. I thought Clinton was great. He was like the first non-black president. Remember, that was a joke. And then he did NAFTA, and it really hurt my family. Like
Clinton did a lot of bull jive. I voted for him twice, and then I watched 13th, and then I went,
yeah.
Oh, wow. Right. So anyway, glad you're here, like in all references of that. And then you decided to stay here in Lansing. Why?
I wanted to make it better. I thought that I could be a contribution to my community, and it's been a little challenging because when you're born and raised in the town, like people look at you for your faults. Oh, well, she failed this, and she failed. Oh, yeah, I know who that person is, and so it's kind of sort of like swimming against the current, and it can be exhausting sometimes. But I think that my love for Lansing is such that there's such a great, rich history here that is, and when I say history, I mean brown people history. I mean, a lot of people don't even know that Cristo Rey Church was founded by migrant workers who just wanted to hear the word of God, that they would invite a priest into a house in the living room and congregate 7, 8 families, right? Until it got so big, they had to move into the garage. And then they saved enough money to buy a building. And then eminent domain happened at one point, and they built a highway right through their building. But it didn't stop them, because now, I think probably 4 locations later, ultimately, they have this great big church on Miller Road. I would say we, because I'm a member of that church, and we are a great contribution to the community. We do so much for the community on so very little. Mm-hmm. And the camaraderie, the family, it's Latino, Mexican values.
It's so
there.
happy.
And the food is so great.
The food is great. I'm so happy. I heard about...
We have the Cristo Rey Fiesta every year.
And then I took my kids... people give me a hard time. Took the white kids, because, whatever. It's, our kids. Mm-hmm. But I wanted them to see different stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm like, look, I don't even know. So we're going, and we'll all learn together. And I talked to some great people. I made sure to buy a few things. You can't be that guy. Oh, it's not the zoo. You're not visiting a zoo. No, participate, be part of it.
And it's a big fundraiser that the church relies on.
And it's a fundraiser too. So I was like, let's come out of pocket. We're gonna go hungry. I'm gonna leave on this note. I was kind of surprised that there was Hungry Howie's there. I was like, this is the Mexican festival, right?
There are kids there too, though.
But are
kids there too. And our kids like pizza. Kids of all cultures love pizza, and it's just like a no-brainer because they always ask for pizza. You would be surprised how much money we make with them.
No, I know. I mean, after, but at first I was like, you ain't got no different versions of tacos, pizza. So, and then even I think my daughter might have wanted pizza, and I was like,
Yeah. You're like, we
Can
didn't come
you
for
at least
pizza.
get a bag of chips or something?
They do it at the Mexican restaurants too. You can order a hamburger there. In fact, they're probably the better ones. They'll be 100% beef. You go to a taco spot.
It
low
was just
key.
a mind boggle. All right, we're gonna come back after this song. This song was help made by the Consumers Professional Credit Union, and check out this original piece that someone wrote about COVID. And we'll be back in like 3 minutes. I don't know.
Bedroom, writing songs, trying to heal so time slows down. Can't help but think what to do when the world around me sinks right down to the ground. I'm lost in the rubble and we're in trouble. Just hold on a little longer. Just breathe in a little slower. Just think how great if we could just wait to be free from quarantine. Been in my bedroom playing songs, trying to keep my thoughts at bay. So far away from this catastrophe that happens just as I start to feel free. This broken world I live in right now, it's just too loud. Just hold on a little longer. Just breathe in a little slower. Just think how great if we could just wait to be free. Just hold on a little longer. Just breathe in a little slower. Just think how great if we could just wait. Just think how great if we could just wait to be free from quarantine.
That was great.
Thanks.
And we're back. Thank you for watching What's the Haps Lansing. It is Metro Melik here. You just saw an original song by Kayla Lynn that first aired on the 517 Celebration TV show, which should be online relatively soon, but that was brought to you in part by the Consumers Professional Credit Union. That was an employee there, and she came up with that song about COVID. It's a beautiful song. It makes you kind of think. COVID. It's got a lot of stuff happening. But I think a lot of good stuff is coming out of the chaos. People are trying to figure it out, and they're coming up with great things. So, what is the great things that you would like to speak about, Patricia?
Well, rolling off of that, yeah, there are a lot of things coming out of COVID. For one, I think observing as an independent video journalist, we're seeing and working with Closing the Digital Gap. I mentioned that one of my mentors, Angela Pruitt, at Closing the Digital Gap, we've been screaming, oh, there's a digital gap in the urban area, and for the longest time they only really recognized, they being politicians and corporate America only really recognized the rural gap. But we know there's a gap out in the farm areas in Charlotte, right? I mean, if you move out there, it's always been that way. You've had to wait for cable, you've had to wait, for phone service. So it's kind of like one of those trade-offs. But the digital gap here, the last census took data and was like, oh, everybody's got the internet as long as you got a phone. But it's not the same. We know now. I mean, you can't do your homework. You can't really work. It's not a computer, it's a phone. Sure, it can do a lot of the things the computer can do, but now we're faced with at-home schooling, right, with COVID. And so everybody not only needs the internet, but just laptops. There was a gentleman who called Angela Pruitt's closing the digital gap, and expressed, what do? I need some support. I only have one laptop. I have 3 children, and they all have class at the same time. Now I got to choose which one of my kids gets educated. And so there's an important need there, and I think that, and also the disparity between the cultures, between black people and white people. There was an algorithm that identified, that's computer, non-biased, right? That black people were underserved at places of like hospitals and clinics, meaning they weren't given the same service, the same treatment by the medical professionals. And that's a computer telling us. You can't deny that,
Well, it's interesting that, data comes out because speaking as an individual that had some of these experiences, that data comes out, it's frustrating when you go, I've been telling you this for years, right? And it's dehumanizing when someone dismisses your own history, your own story, your own history, right? And they're like, no, I'm not just making up a story and saying, oh yeah, woe is me type of thing. I'm like, yeah, I've had this experience. And then it takes somebody to come up with a computer program, which is usually someone doing research, which is meaning it's usually somebody that doesn't look like you. And then I'm just like, so it took that for you to believe this over here? It's frustrating, but it's also, I'm glad that things are happening in a sense that people are paying attention to this and opening up their own eyes to
I think it is important, though, to talk about that, though, because, there's these words like microaggressions and white fragility. Sure, if you're white, it does feel like you're being attacked. Like, I didn't do this to you. But there's also what you said, that history, when entire peoples, their entire cultures, their entire contributions to the existence of the world that we appreciate today, the technology, some of the cures, some like the HeLa cells, wow, like stripping us of our due credit kind of makes you feel invisible for a while. And then the white people have to, it's a daunting experience. It's confrontational because you have to confront that, yeah, racism is real. And yeah, you are special because you're white skin in this world right now because they think you're special. They think you're innocent. They think you're worth
Well, it's in
more.
language. It's in policy. It's in law. It's in practice.
It's in literature.
It's in literature.
Yeah.
It's in comfortability. I have a new thing that I started doing where people were like, oh, Melik, that was cool. How'd you do that? And I go, black magic. Because what is black and magic, and put that together, it's dark and menacing and negativity and stuff like that. But I'm like, no, I'm black, right? And if you think it's magical, then it's black magic. Good, right?
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's what you're referring to is literary. Like in literature, they teach you the symbolisms, like water means redemption and rebirth, or white is pure and black is white.
The white pure driven snow.
That's from the Christian influence of literature. But if you look at Egyptology, black means fertility. Black means beauty.
Black is beautiful, baby.
Right.
Blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Black don't crack.
So yeah, that's I think what's so important though, because I think that when you know your own identity,
Egypt is in Africa. And we don't have time to go down that path.
You could just say this. You can say, why Egyptology? Why not Aztecology? Why not Chinaology? What is so special about Egyptology? But if you look a little bit closer,
it's hijackology.
And you can see the influence of the Vatican. This is all fact. People can look this up. The Vatican actually created that scholarly college so that they could protect the truth and make sure that it came out white. You know what I'm talking about. What's his name? One of the best comedians ever, before Eddie Murphy. He lit himself on fire, unfortunately. What's his name?
Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor had a show, and they canceled him, but there's a skit. You can look it up on YouTube. Richard Pryor is with these Egyptologists, and they shut him in because he finds this book that's basically revealing the truth that most of the most amazing technology, calendars, philosophies, education,
trade
came from Africans.
Yes.
And he's like, oh my God, he's been stealing all of this from us. And they're like, the other Egyptologists that are all white, they're like, okay, we can't let him come out. And they steal him in the pyramid. And he was trying to tell us the truth back then, and nobody wanted to listen.
Was
in the
the
70s.
comical genius that, in a sense, got censored because he spoke truth no matter what he spoke.
Right.
And even his own truth. Yeah, I got lit on fire, right? I did
Yeah.
it to myself. And one of my favorite stories is when he shot his own car and the police showed up and he's like, what? It's my car. And like, but I'm not going to go down that path.
Well, it's empowering to know that knowledge, that truth right there, I think is what's really important. And that's why I started Que Pasa TV, because I thought, what if...
Boom, you did the thing. You're a host.
What if... what if we could change the world with television? You know, all these disparaging things. Like, I seen the 13th, but before the 13th, I was one of those people in the my early 20s. This would be like 2006, 2004. There's all these documentaries coming out. You know, like Eyes Wide Shut, and their documentary, Thrive, stuff about aliens. The Nation Capital, was it Nation Corporation Nation? I think was one of, and they just break down all the systems, like anything that's a system, a healthcare system, really not for your healthcare. You know, the financial system, it's really not to help you get money. If you look at the systems, right, the education system, the correction system, the prison system, the health, all of it. So I started to really think of, oh my God, is it real? Is global domination real? And then you go down this black hole and it makes you really paranoid and you start really thinking doomsday and it's all so depressing. But there was this documentary that I seen called Thrive at the end where they give all these possibilities, right? What if we could make money and you could have a livelihood by growing food in your neighborhood? It's a co-op and everybody's making money but also self-sustaining, and just these amazing out of the box just theories. What if energy was free and self-sustaining? So like if Walking Dead ever happened, you wouldn't have to worry about the coal burning up and no more energy. I mean, it would be self-sustaining, right?
Yeah.
Cars could always drive. You wouldn't need gas. So what if we could change the world with
So that's
radio?
what your idea was when you started Que Pasa TV?
Yeah, there was a lot of things happening that...
And where can people find this Que Pasa TV?
It's on public access, but it's also on Facebook. And right now in your community, we're working with a lot of organizations,
And
a lot
it's
of
a
youth.
Q with the asterisk
Apostrophe and then PASA.
PASA.
/ WZUP, what's up? Because it means what's up. It means what's up. What's up? Like what's up in Lansing?
Haps?
Yeah.
What's that?
So when I talk to kids about this, like what would you change? The two things they always say is bullying and like environment, like for the animals and climate change. And those are the two big passionate things. So the side end about that is creating, and I'm working with Closing the Digital Gap with them, having hopefully a campus to be able to put these cameras in young people's hands, and then we go cover marches, rallies, or these issues, and we start talking. And so maybe they learn through the camera.
Learning through the lens.
Yeah, about how to participate in their democracy, or about civil disobedience, or about, you know, how to your civil rights, you know, because a lot of the things that I cover, like Action of Greater Lansing or no detention centers in Michigan, there's a lot of things in political justice and even just social justice that are really economic justice and healthcare justice that are really important that we cover, because those are the things that really don't get covered, right?
Yeah.
In a way that people, that it's just the truth. That's where you get this fake news, you know, stuff. And
Right.
while I agree that there's a lot of news that is inaccurate and they're not on the scene, it's not all fake. I think it's
Probably not fully reported or
not fully investigated either,
really
because you have
investigated.
reporters interviewing reporters.
Yeah, and I mean time crunches and stuff like that. Like, I'm not giving excuses, but it's, you know, there's too many variables going on and you only have so much time. Like, we're almost out of time. Well, we could talk about a lot of different things and go down many different paths, but I'm glad you were here to share part of a history and story of something that I've always been fascinated about, and I appreciate your graciousness of allowing me to express my ignorance and being able to be the ambassador into a world that I think should be brought out more. So thank you very much. You've been most gracious. I appreciate
Thank you.
that.
I look forward to more collaborations. Maybe we can bring some guests on here, like some of the other things that we're talking about. Like there's some tamale making classes coming up with Crystal Ray. There's
That's
a lot
a fundraiser?
It's a fundraiser, but it's also a class. So, you know, a lot of people,
Okay.
and we're gonna do them right before Christmas because that's about the time that we usually in our culture make tamales. You know, for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
I think I need about a dozen. Jessie, my partner. She's
Yeah,
like,
maybe she could learn too,
tamales.
and you guys can make them
I think
at
she
home.
I think she knows. Jesse's magical. She's got a lot. Oh, she is. Like, she'll say something, I'll just be like, ooh.
So you got Black Magic and Jesse Magic going on up
Magic,
in there.
and Jesse Magic is fierce. You don't want to mess with that. I don't.
Good.
She'll say something, and it'll be out of the blue, and I'll be like, that's gospel? I'm not messing with that. And then act accordingly.